I thought I would begin a process of working on clouds. Clouds are a lot of fun. We all have a chance to see them, no matter where we live, probably. And they look very simple, but to make them look interesting and like clouds, it takes some observing and some different ways of working. There are so many different ways people render clouds. So I'm going to show a kind of fun way to get started with it. It's by no means the only way. But I have this image of hay bales that I saw in Ohio this past week. And it has some nice clouds in it. So what you need for this exercise is a piece of paper, drawing paper, and then a couple of pieces of scrap paper. And what we're going to do is tear, if I can do this so the camera shows it, make an irregular sort of semicircle torn edge here. Matter of fact, I'm going to do two of them. This one is quite large. I'll do a sort of smaller one, or at least more shallow. And it's important that it has some nice rough edges on it. Then I'm going to take a blue pencil. I'm going to take the darkest blue I can find. That's not the way it's going to, actually this one's darker, so I'll use that one. That's not the color that the clouds will be, but you'll see why I'm using a dark one. And I'm going to make a color patch here, not all the way to the edge. I'm going to leave the edge alone. I'm going to press really hard so I get a good layer of colored pencil down there. And this will be the edge of the clouds. The clouds, they vary. Sometimes in some places they have sharp edges, and then sometimes the edges are soft. So I'm going to take this cotton pad and make sure I'm in the camera view here. Yep. And fold it over and just press, and push the pigment off on the page. And when I take it away, see we have a little cloud edge there. So I'm just going to turn it different ways, get some different shapes going on there. And I'm going to take this different one, and actually I'm going to do a different color, because if you study clouds at all, which I do, I love them, you'll notice that very often there's all kinds of different colors in the sky. So I'll just do the same process here. And I'm going to do it right over that blue. See what happens there. So what I recommend is that you try this, just do a whole bunch of them and get different shapes going. You can do it very stylistically, in other words, very interpretively, and not try to be very representative or realistic of the clouds. But one of the things that, if you notice, clouds, to make them look like we're looking at clouds in the sky, they're bigger and more distinct. closer to us, and as they go back, they're smaller, they appear smaller and closer together, and often the edges are less distinct. And that's true of, we've talked about that a lot, of trees in the background and mountains in the background. So the bigger the shapes are up at the top here, which would be the sky closest to us, and then the closer the shapes are as they go back and less distinct, that gives the illusion of perspective. So in this image, I recommend that you do some samples of sky first, and maybe turn the page this way and do a whole bunch of sky up here, and then pick the segment that you like to finish off the drawing. I did it the other way around. I did the hay bales first, and the lawn and the field and the trees, and then I did the sky, and I wasn't real happy with the sky, so I wished I'd have done it the other way around. I wished I'd have gotten the sky the way I liked it before I did the drawing. So that would be my recommendation. And in terms of palette for this image, I was going for very light so that the bales of hay would really be the focus of attention. So as you see, I wasn't trying to match what I was looking at. I was making the trees in the background very indistinct and much, much lighter, and then putting in a lot of detail in the front bale and then less as I went back to give it that look of distance. And I used a sort of goldish yellow and this chartreusey green. Then I used a variety of blues and greens to get the foliage and the lawn, and even a sort of earth red and purple. Purple for the shadows, because yellow and purple are opposites, and so the purple worked really well for the shadows. That's just the palette that I used. There, of course, would be many different directions to go. And while I'm at it, I will take the opportunity to say a word or two about keeping pencils sharp. It's could be seen as one of the downsides of working in colored pencil. There are many great things about working with colored pencil. They're not messy, they're not toxic. But what I find as a downside is that they do have to be sharpened. You get much more mileage out of them if they are sharpened. And I notice very often some students have very blunt pencils, and you just don't get, well, most of mine are sharpened because I like to keep them that way, but you get a very distinctly different experience if they're sharpened. I have a variety of sharpeners, and I use whatever I have need at the time or think will work best. This one works this way. It can be mounted to a table, but I just freeform it. And I must have something stuck in there because it's not working. That's another drawback, but easily solved. This is an electric one, and since I work alone, I'm okay using this. It makes it go very quickly, and I get a nice sharp edge. I have various handheld ones, and they work best in the classroom because they're not they're not noisy. You do have to watch about the contents. So this is just one that seems to have come apart at the wrong place. So oops, I opened the wrong end, that's why. And this one is just very simple, you do the work kind of thing. But whatever you use, it's important to put the time in to keep them sharp. And if you find it a particularly boring task, it's something you can do while you're watching the news. Just pull all your materials up to the television and line them up and do them. It's, oops.